Greetings, everyone. Chief Yuya here. I wanted to share something really quick that I thought was very apt and would be just something good for you all to think about in this time. And it's an article that was written, about a patent that Microsoft recently put out there. And it's a patent to basically mind brain activity or brain energy or even caloric energy of a body. And there's two articles, but one of them is was written by Tech Radar, was for the site Tech Radar, and was written by Matt Hansen about a month ago. And the title of it is Microsoft Wants to Use Your Brain to Mine for Cryptocurrency. All right, so I'm going to read it real quick, and I'm going to give some very brief commentary on it, and then we'll get into something a little deeper on it a little later. But I think the article is a great prelude to something else that I'm going to be touching on soon. All right, so it goes. A recent patent application appears to suggest that Microsoft is working on a proof of work algorithm that uses brain waves and other biometric data to mine for cryptocurrency. In the patent titled Cryptocurrency System Using Data on Body Activity, Microsoft proposes using a sensor on the user's body that would transmit data from body activity, such as brain activities, blood flow and movement, which would then be transmitted to a server. Users would be encouraged to complete tasks, and that a brain wave or body heat emitted from the user when the user performs a task provided by an information or service provider, such as viewing an advertisement or using certain internet services, can be used in the mining process. The activity would replace the massive computation work that normal cryptocurrency mining requires, with the data gathered by the body activity considered as proof of work. Subconsciously mining. According to the patent, the sensor would be able to detect different brain waves, including gamma and beta waves, which involve learning, memory and logical thinking, and alpha waves, which are related to the subconscious. Microsoft makes reference to the fact that work performed by users will be done unconsciously, which suggests that alpha brain waves will be the most important here and could mean the work is done while the users concentrate on other things. This all sounds a bit sci-fi, and we're not sure too many people would be willing to hand over their brain power to Microsoft, regardless of the cryptocurrency rewards. This is just a patent as well, so we may not see a real tech using what's described here for a long time, if at all. So for the time being, at least, we'll still need to use our PCs and not our brains to mine for cryptocurrency. And again, that was written for the site Tech Radar. You could check that out. And it was Matt Hansen who wrote that article. And there was some other ones as well. There was one that was written for the Independent, which is a UK publication that I also have. I won't read that one. But what I did do is I screenshotted it and cropped it up, and so that you could see it in nice big writing on your screen. But which, and it's basically the same article anyway. It's just a couple little variations where they talk about. Matter of fact, I'll read some of it. So we'll say instead of massive computation work, I'm just jumping in little parts that are different. Instead of massive computation work required by some conventional cryptocurrency systems, data generation based on the body activity user can be proof of work, and therefore a user can solve the computationally difficult problem unconsciously. The mining system would involve hooking up a device to a various sensors on the body that detect the activity required of the user to generate the cryptocurrency. Possible sensors used to track the activity include MRI scanners, heat cameras, and heart rate and infrared sensors. Beyond brain waves and body heat, other activities that could be monitored included body fluid flow and organ activity movement. The patent lists 28 different concepts for the way the system could be used to mine cryptocurrency, including tasks like browsing social media, engaging with an artificial intelligence chatbot, or visiting a website. It does not specify which cryptocurrency the system would work with, though it could use an entirely new digital payments network based on a blockchain developed especially for it. Microsoft did not immediately respond to a request for comment from The Independent about whether it plans to develop the technology. Okay, so, real quick, I just want to kind of share on this a little bit. It's an important topic, and it's an important time. And of course, it's in the realm of patents. So that doesn't mean that it means it exists. It just doesn't mean that it's being fully implemented, as far as what you're conscious of it being implemented. Right. But I think it's a very important, concept to think about, and I'm going to have to bring us back 20 years now, 21 years, to the Matrix. Once again, we're back in the Matrix, right? The movie, which just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. This is not the first time that Microsoft has kind of come forward with this type of idea. I remember about 2 years ago, back in 2018, they also had put forth a patent for a software that they could use to control the mind, control brainwaves, and they were trying to patent an interface where it was basically your brain would be the control surface, and you'd be able to use your computer voice-free and hands-free. Okay, which is not dissimilar from what we see in a lot of sci-fi films. There's one out now called The Feed, and it touches on that. Well, it's really about that. The Feed, a good one to check out. But so that was a patent they put forth. Then they had another one where before that they would use certain hand signals. So you could flick your fingers forward, swipe your hand from left to right, or your fist, and then that would act as a control surface as well for your screen. All right, but anyway, so we know Microsoft wants to monitor and control brain activity, body activity, fluid activity, and use that as a way to generate revenue through the blockchain through cryptocurrency mining. Well, doesn't this sound like the Matrix? If you consider it for a second, because it says it's doing this unconsciously while it's unconscious to the user. Well, isn't that the Matrix? Where you're asleep, and while you're asleep, you're generating energy for the machines. You're functioning as a body by using your biometrics, by using your basic and natural born biology. You function as a battery for the actual the machine, the computer machines, or the machines as they called it. Well, this is the same exact thing. And so it's here. And again, I want to reiterate: if a patent is being requested, that means it's already been invented, right? And what Microsoft wants, Microsoft gets, as the world is beginning to find out now, as a result of some of the recent events. And years ago, I worked at Microsoft a long time ago, and that was like one of the dream locations to be, because again, they're always like on the cutting edge of technology. And this was before Google was the giant that it is. In fact, I don't even know if there was a Google at that point. If it was, it was probably just as popular as Yahoo search engine, and and I think probably Ask Jeeves was still out back then. But nonetheless, I'm familiar with their inner workings and their corporate theology, and the thing about it is that it's always important to understand is that we're already giving so much to the machine already. There are some people. I was speaking to someone last night, and we were just talking about what you go to sleep with, or who you go to sleep with, what the feeling that you want when you go to sleep. And I said, well, some people, they go to sleep embracing their phones, and they wake up embracing their phones and looking for what activity there's been, or who's approved something that they posted, or anything like that, or what's the new news. And in that sense, they're giving themselves over to the machine. You see, the matrix is already here. You know, we're thinking this illusional world or this computer generated world that, like Morpheus said, that you can't see, you can't touch, and things like that. Well, this is what social media is. It's an invisible world that's generated by, most importantly, it's generated by you. So as you're looking around and thinking, you know, all of these different secret societies are the creators of this matrix that so many people find themselves in, it may be hard to come to the realization that we create the matrix. We created it. You know, if you stripped all of these profiles from these social media accounts, all you will be left with is bots and fake profiles or nothing. If you completely divested your brain input into all of these different social media huge think pools, because and I'm going to get in that in another video, but they're literally feeding on your brain. And while they're feeding on your brain, you're feeding your brain voluntarily to it. I like this. I don't like that. This makes me laugh. This doesn't make me laugh. Here's an emoji. You got an emoji for every feeling I want to feel. I'm crying. I'm upset. I'm praying. This is sexy to me. This is ugly to me. This is a lie to me. This, that. And then now my feed is adjusted based on how I respond to what you just put on the feed. So it is our collective and cooperative work together where we are collectively and mutually adjoining ourselves to create this matrix, right? And now, well, we say now, but obviously the matrix came out 20 years ago. And it's not a new concept. You know, if you actually study the matrix and the Wachowski, the Wachowski siblings, I guess we have to say now. I'll say that to be honorable, because they both now identify as females. So but back then it was the Wachowski brothers, of course. But nonetheless, they pulled from so many different works that concept and that terminology, the matrix, and the idea of this machine generated environment, literally called the matrix, goes back to the 60s. And the concept of this publicly generated false environment goes back even before that, which I'm gonna break down soon. But it goes back into classical Greek, you know, where there was the concept was put forth of that, and you could see when you look at those films, it pulled from those concepts. So it's not a new idea at all, but it was just a conglomerate of so many interesting concepts. That's why you had references to Alice in Wonderland in there. You had references in there to the Wizard of Oz. You had biblical references. They just pulled so much, you know, and put it into one space, if you will, right? But nonetheless, you know, this is a time now to really think about how you might want to take another look at low-tech environments. I was speaking to a good friend of mine in Nigeria yesterday, and he was asking me about 5G towers and what I knew about it. So we were having a talk about it, and you know, of course, he was very upset. You know, they're very emotional people, and he said, "Bro, I'm gonna go back to my Nokia 3300." You know, and you know, I was like, yeah, you might want to. I was laughing a little bit. He's like, no, I'm serious. Like, he's like, I'm going to go. He's like, all I need is WhatsApp, and I don't really even need that. He's like, but I'm going to go back to that. And I said, you know, honestly, that might be the answer for many, to start to look at what it looks to be like in a low-tech environment. There are so many people who have eluded capture for many years because of their low-tech. That's all I'll say there, because I'm not, you know, trying to put a bullseye on my first eye. But, you know, so this concept is very interesting, like I said, because it relates back to the idea of us feeding or being batteries or energy sources for the machine, where now they're literally saying we want to use your biology to power our mining or to power our computation. And we want to do it in a way where you're already participating in it subconsciously, because you're already hooked and tethered and addicted to social media and web browsing and things like that. Anyway, so we'll use the addiction that we've created in you to now fuel this way that we can now generate more imaginary money, more digital money, so it's just a very important time. And like I said, I don't want to talk about it long because I'm going to expound on this a bit more, but I wanted to kind of just present the article as a prelude and give you something to consider and think about. And, I know we live in the information age, and it's a beautiful thing. All the information is now available to us. There's no reason not to know something or to, use that as an excuse. I didn't know how to do this, or I didn't know where to find it. You can't use that anymore. That doesn't work unless you're just that lazy. But for those who do spend an inordinate amount of time researching and looking for information for really no purpose other than just to know things, this may be something that you consider. Maybe I do need to kind of regulate the amount of time that I spend within this matrix of information, where in many senses is not really even verifiable by anything that's tangible other than another information source. Well, I got 10 books and 10 books said the same thing or alluded to the same thing, so it must be true. But no, they're all theories. So we talk about, the desert of the mind, or the desert of the real, which is a old philosophy, very old philosophy they utilize in the Matrix as well. I'll get into that again, like I said, another time. But I think it's a good time to imagine how we may be tethered and feeding into this matrix of social media with our expectations and the emotions that and the subservience that we hand to it. I mean, we post an image up or something like that, and we're looking to see how many likes we get. And we don't truly know the people who are liking it. We don't even know if they're real people. They could just be bots. Yes, we see an image and we see some pictures and we see some interaction, but there's algorithms that could emulate someone else's behavior and activity, and all it would need is a couple of images. And of course, those could be computer generated, because now people use so many filters on their images, you don't know what you're really looking at anyway. Thanks to the advent of Snapchat, which was again later purchased by Facebook, but, which also owns Instagram. But this whole idea of now creating this fictitious and deceptive image of myself. So I might be looking at a sex doll and thinking it's a woman. By time you have so many layers of filters and underneath that, maybe even layers of makeup, that level of bewitchment and deception, so we don't even, so all the people who are giving us shows and signs of digital approval, we don't really even know if that's real. We don't even know if they're actually people, or if they're entities, and how is that truly defined when you live in a super capitalistic society that gives a corporation the same rights as an organic being, underneath corporation laws. You see, all of that is a precursor to all of this. So now the computer, will it now eventually have civil rights? Will the AI eventually have civil rights? Because if you notice, it's saying if you engage even with AI, you can get cryptocurrency credits. So, and there was a Black Mirror episode that came out about this that I really enjoyed a lot. I enjoy the series a lot, but it basically was about a society where credits were given as, when someone participated in watching an advertisement or anything like that, and they were basically batteries, right? And essentially what they would do, like they would work out, they were all dressed in gray. It was a very drab environment. And, they would work out, and as they worked out, they would power up these monitors where they would watch commercials and shows and things like that. And the more they watched, the more credits they got, which allowed them to do other things, right? But essentially, again, they were just batteries, and it's a good episode to watch. I don't remember the name of that particular episode, but I know it did have Daniel Kaluuya in it. If I'm pronouncing his name right, I think it's Kaluuya, but it had Daniel Kaluuya in it, the brother from the Black Panther. But yeah, it was a good little episode, but same concept. Same concept. You know, using advertising, social media, and the like to fuel the system, and our addiction to it and our desire towards it to actually fuel the system. All right. So that's all I wanted to say. It's a little bit more than I wanted to say. But like I said, I'm going to follow up on this in the coming future and address this a little bit more. Very interesting time that we are in. And for so many people who think they've unplugged and they've dodged and are making those pronouncements on social media, you're still held well within the grasp of that netting of that machine overlord. All right, it's Chief Yuya, and I'll see you all very soon. Peace.